In this lesson, we're going to use the console of our browser to access the value of a service. And we'll take care of a small issue that we have pending, which has to do with the dates. I'll explain what's going on. Basically, we have our entries with a string for the dates. And when we're working with forms in Angular and when we're using the input field of type date, we need to be working with date objects. Let's take a look at what happens at the console. I'm going to create a new entry. And in the console, we're going to type Angular.element, and then we select a certain element of the DOM. We will not get access to things that are outside of the scope of that element. Let's select the document, the body of the document. But you can use normal JavaScript DOM selectors to find the element that you want. Then we're going to call this method called injector, and we'll finally get access to our services, in this case expenses. Expenses has only two properties, entries and the save method. See how we have both in here, an array called entries and a function called save. If we go to entries, check out any of the individual entries, you'll see that the date is a string, but on the last one, the date is actually a date object, because that's how Angular works when you're working with forms and input fields of type date. In order to take care of this, what we'll do is change all of our entries so that they have a date object in here. Later on in this application, we'll change them all back to string before we send them to the server, because we're assuming that the server will store them in this manner. That's just an assumption. So I've added an object here called myHelpers, where you could put different helper methods that you need. And I found one date object to string converter and one string to date object converter. This one was obtained from Stack Overflow, and this is just very simple constructor of a date object from a string that has this format, which is year, month, day. Right. So let's finally take care of this problem. So we'll iterate throughout this array using for each. That's a JavaScript method that you can use. It's a JavaScript feature. We'll get access to each one of the elements, and we'll change the date of that individual element to my helpers dot. This would be string to date object, and what we're converting is date. Now, if I reload the page, and if we check back in the console to see what's going on, I press the up arrow to get the last command. We go to entries, and then we check any of them and see how now they are date objects. So when we implement editing, the input field, the date input field will show the correct value so that we can modify it.